Okay, it is Thursday, June 9th, 2022. Richland County Board of Commissioners are now in session. I'm Commissioner Tony Vero, joined by Commissioners Banks and Mears, our clerk Stacy Crawl, our County Administrator Andrew Keller. Are the Spartan cheerleaders online?
Down.
So we're not gonna have a perfect cheer then today if we only have 1 out of 2, right?
We are.
All right, motion to certify the record of proceedings for June 7th, 2022.
Oh,
So moved. Second.
Rivero,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears, Commissioner Banks,
Yes,
Motion to approve requisitions.
absolutely.
Rivero,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears, Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve weekly transfers and appropriations.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Rivero,
Yes.
Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Motion to approve quarterly overtime resolution for wastewater.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Rivero,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
You can have your cheer now.
Oh, how's on?
Perfect cheer. The Spartan cheerleaders are together. Okay, motion to approve the CHIP partnership agreement
So moved.
addendum. It's not an amendment.
And
Second.
Commissioner Rivero,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
All right, motion to approve revised quote for paving work at JFS. Looks like we need to fix the speed bump. That'll obviously upset Commissioner Banks as he's a speed demon.
So moved. Second.
Commissioner Rivero,
Yes.
Probably shouldn't have seconded.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve utility permit from First Energy. There was an oversight from being previously submitted. So they needed to add on the utility permit to add fiber for the Lincoln Highway portion of the project.
So moved. Second.
Rivero,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
This would have never happened under Tom Beck, I'll tell you. Okay. That is it for our other this morning. Any questions before we recess?
Just real quick, have commissioners heard from a company called Omni Fiber down in Cincinnati?
I haven't.
Not me.
Okay, well, I'll probably get back with you. They're wanting to do high-speed internet, fiber wire throughout Mansfield, and I didn't know if they'd heard about them through the city. I didn't know if they'd contacted you guys.
They have not.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got a
Al?
quick question. Was there a big increase in that paving work at JFS?
$5,000.
Is that because of materials?
No, they missed the speed bump redo.
Oh, okay.
A bad spot.
Yeah.
They got a bad spot from the northeast corner down there and needed more repairs than they thought it was gonna need.
Okay, that's the only question I had. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further business, we will recess and come back at 10 o'clock.
School of what? School security, school meals.
just for Harding funds. Okay, it is 10 o'clock and we are back in session. And we are here for several engineer items and we're joined by not the best Richland County engineer, but one of the best. Adam Gove.
I know of none better.
Got my vote.
And we have a bid opening for road salt. And for anyone who knows Adam, he's often salty. So, it's appropriate. Adam, anything you want to tell us?
This is our county salt contract. Got about 1,000 tons that serving county, municipalities in the county, and then townships. I guess when you open those bids, there should be, if there's a tab for the price and they may give a total. Read both. We're interested in the price per ton.
Mine doesn't have a tab because that's how my life works.
Mine neither.
Staple. Get a staple.
Heavy duty staples, Mears. All right, I think I found it there, Gove.
Yep.
I have Morton's salt, not to be confused with your regular table salt. You can get it at any other grocery store.
Right now,
Right. Their total bid, Mr. Gove, is 759,819.55. I'm showing a unit cost of 63.77. That sound about right in the ballpark?
They have a bid bond.
Yes, they have a bid bond.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good number considering we were at 54.82.
It's all because of Putin. But I've been told.
I have Cargill. Roll five, by the way. A rock salt delivered to Richland County and various townships, villages and cities. Nearly 12 tons of 900. $83.45. Total $996.75.
I could beat that.
Good.
Who's that from, Daryl?
Cargill. Not only make clothes, they distribute salt. Oh, there you go.
I have a bid.
Banks say they made clothes.
I have a bid from Compass Materials America in Overland Park, Kansas. I do have a bid bond. Their unit cost is $69.97 per ton. And at 11,915 tons, that totals $833,692.55.
69.3.
And I have a bid from
On their envelope.
We got
Fine, man.
today, the longer it takes.
I'm keeping you in suspense.
That's why I'm getting $5,000 less than the rest of you.
American Rock Salt LLC. Somewhere in New York, state of New York. I don't know. They are at $81.85 a ton. I believe this is the same amount, 11,915 tons totals $975,242.75. I do have
It used to be your total budget.
That it?
that's it.
Okay. Sure, Adam will go study it like he did his surveyor's exam,
That's right.
and he'll come back with a recommendation.
I will.
We are not done with Adam Gove.
I'm
As we were,
I had a question on the salt before you move on. Cliff, what was that last company?
American Rock Salt.
Okay. And then a question for Adam. Who was provided the salt last winter?
Last year, the county contract was with Compass Minerals.
Didn't bid this
Okay.
year.
You did.
They did, yes.
no, I had Morton's.
American is in Mount Morris, New York. Interested?
Okay, if I could, there was just a lot of sound disruption and I missed some numbers. I just want to go over these, Adam, if you've got the bids back with you. Morton, first of all, how many tons were you looking for?
The contract is for 11,915 tons.
And what was your estimate for that?
There's no estimate with material bids.
And Morton Salt, I had total bid of $759,819.55, a unit cost of $63.77. And what was the total tonnage in their bid?
That
It's all the same. They're all bidding on the same quantity.
Okay. Cargill, I had a total bid of $994, $106.75. What was the per ton cost for Cargill?
83.45. And we have a little bit different number there, so you may just do that math.
should be 994,306.75.
Okay, thank you for that. And Compass Minerals, 833,692.55 for a unit cost of $69.77.
69.97.
Okay. And American Rock Salt, they had 975,242.75 or 81.85 per ton.
Correct.
Okay. And what was, you said last year the contract was with Compass Minerals for 54.82. What was the total bid at 54.82?
I don't have that number. I'm not sure how many tons we would have bid last year. I don't have that number here.
Now, was it a rough winter? I mean, do you think you're having to get as much salt as you got last year? Did you use more or less than you anticipated?
It was about an average winter last year. I would say we've reduced our portion, the county's portion that we're requesting as part of this contract from last year, because we were able to purchase quite a bit here at the end of the season, and we have a fair amount on hand that should get us through the end of this year. So I don't anticipate purchasing any salt through this contract until the beginning of next year.
And how much of this particular bid is actually going to go, and does it go to how many townships, and does it go to all the townships? How does that work?
The townships elect to participate. There are 16 of the 18 townships participating in this contract. They have a request for 6,640 tons. There are 6 municipalities participating for a total of 2,775 tons.
Okay, if you have 16 of 18 townships, do you know which 2 are not?
I believe it's Washington and Cass.
And the 6 municipalities, is that all the municipalities in the county, or there's some that don't?
No, there are some that don't. Ontario, Mansfield, I believe Mansfield does their own contract. Ontario, I think, participates in the state contract.
That's kind of what I needed. Thank you.
Township request is about half of the quoted total.
Correct.
Idea what the state contract is per ton this year.
Not yet. They have not bid their contract yet.
Do we hedge our bets?
Yes, we split. So we are doing 2,500 in this contract and 2,500 in the state contract.
What if we lose?
Hopefully we break even.
Ties like kissing your sister, Gove. Anything else from the question mafia out there?
Nope, I'm good.
Well, we don't know if you're good, but all right, moving on. In this wonderful economy of ours, because of Putin, remember, we have to reject bids. Adam, talk to us.
Yeah. So I think this is what, the fourth time I'm up here to reject bids.
Sort of like Adam trying to find a girlfriend growing up.
Yeah, but he did all right.
You know, she's blind, but look at Stacy.
So we are having to, we opened bids last week for our OPWC resurfacing project. This is to resurface Orchard Park from Route 42 out to 13, the entire length of Orchard Park Road, and a short section of Trimble Road from Walker Lake to State Route 39. Our estimate for the project was $510,435.35. We did receive one bid from Shelley and Sands. Came in at $716,936.35. This is about 40% over our estimate. So unfortunately, we can't, well, not unfortunately, we cannot award state law. So I'm asking to reject that bid and also requesting permission to re-advertise. We have adjusted our estimate. We did not change the work. We do feel this work needs to be done. So we did not change anything to our work. We've just adjusted our estimate. Our new engineer's estimate is $658,200.35. Like I said, Orchard Park, the total project's about 3.1 miles of resurfacing. This does include milling surface, doing any repairs to the base that need done, and then resurfacing with asphalt.
We have a sense for raising the estimate would create additional bids. Or for receiving one bid only.
Yeah, I'm hopeful it does. I think, sometimes people look at this and if they can't get close to our estimate, they just disregard and move on. So I am hopeful that this will bring in additional bids.
I think there should be some sort of punitive action if you keep missing the engineer's estimate. What do you think we could do? Just take some off his budget for every amount he misses? I mean, can we work on that with Marilyn and Mark?
Or maybe just his personal salary.
Oh, I'll bet he nails it then. Well, every estimate would come in $8 gajillion. So that way he'd never miss it.
Never miss.
Right.
No, obviously, we're starting to see what fuel prices are doing. Anytime you're resurfacing, milling and resurfacing, you have a lot of trucks. A lot of trucks takes a lot of diesel. Asphalt is a petroleum product. At the beginning of the year, I don't think it was affecting asphalt work to the extent that it is now. I would have liked to have these bids out a little bit sooner, but this has OPWC money in it, and that money is not available till July 1st. Technically be in contract until that money is available in July. That's why we wait to bid this project.
I will make a motion that we reject the bid we have and rebid the project.
Second.
Commissioner Vero,
Yes.
Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes. Now, if you could get people going down 13 to get in the right-hand lane instead of passing me and then jumping in front of me to go down that road, I would appreciate it. You can work that out, I'll vote for it.
Okay.
So Adam, when you get a bid back from a supplier, how long is that good for? So, they bid on a price, but you may not get to that project for 30, 60, 90 days. There's no risk that they're going to say, no, wait a minute,
No, once
it expires in.
bid a project, we have so long to award it. They have so long to get their,
No, so they know how long their price would have to be good for.
Yeah.
You say as things escalate so quickly as they have been.
Yeah.
There's no risk that they're going to say,
correct.
revise our.
And that's, maybe that's part of the reason for their price. They have to look ahead and say, hey, we don't know what our costs are going to be come July, August. So we need to raise our price up to cover any
Yeah.
change that may come.
My question was prompted from that letter by Jones and Henry out of Toledo when they said their suppliers are only guaranteeing prices for hours, not days, not weeks, not months, but only for hours. So, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hey,
Any
Adam,
question?
Yeah,
I didn't
I've got a
ask for
question.
questions yet, Angela Lansbury.
Hey,
Any
Beat you to the
questions from
punch.
Media Land?
I'm quicker witted than you are today.
Yeah, you're something.
Adam, do you feel comfortable with your estimate considering your original was, 500,000 and the bid came 800,000 and prices of petroleum products are still extremely volatile and appear to be going up?
It came in at 716,000.
So,
I hope so. I guess I can't see into the future. I think there's a limit to what we are willing to spend on that project. We only have so much money to go towards our road projects. And as these projects become more expensive, we have to look at what we can get done and then what we have to pull back on. So I'm hopeful. I guess I don't know if I'm optimistic, but I'm hopeful that our new revised estimate will at least attract more competition and hopefully still meet the ability to award a contract.
okay, that's all I had.
Some quick math and 10% over your revised estimate would take it to $724,020.
Any questions from Matlock?
Well, if you mean me, yeah, I have a couple. How much, Adam, of this particular project is coming from OPWC?
So the OPWC grant was going to cover 40% of the cost. As this project estimate has climbed, that percentage will go down. We only have 500,000 from a grant through OPWC to put towards this project and our CCAP resurfacing that we awarded here last week.
Okay, and I just want to double check the mileage. Now, you're talking about Orchard Park from basically where it comes out of Lexington all the way to 13,
Correct.
and that's only 3.1 miles?
Yes.
Wow, I could have sworn that was longer. I drive that an awful lot. And that's only 3. That surprises me. But that, as someone who drives Orchard Park, thank you very much for that. On an unrelated, but while I've got your ear question, who is responsible for the intersection of Hanley Road and 13? Is that the city? Is that the county? Is that the state?
That would be the state and the city.
Okay, because that is an accident waiting to happen every 5 minutes. So I got to find out because I've seen almost 3 what would have been severe accidents in the last 48 hours down there. Nobody knows what to do with that intersection.
It's a busy one.
Yep, and it's getting worse. Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
Probably the one that's pulling off from.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
we will recess until 10:30.
Ours is at 10:30.
Too warm in here now. I'll take the sweatshirt off. I put a covering
In session once again. We are joined by our Richland County Regional Planning Director, the lovely Jodica Shetty, wearing her Notre Dame green colors today. Archie McMicrowave setting up in the back. And I believe we have some people in Zoom land, right? You want to note that?
Rick and Shirley Reeder from Shiloh.
Say that again, please.
Rick and Shirley Reeder from Shiloh.
Mayor, how we doing out there? And Mrs. Reeder, how we doing?
Good, good.
Welcome. And
this is Dan Barr with CT Consultants. I work with Shiloh as well.
welcome. Okay. Well, we have a public hearing on the CDBG Shiloh project that Jodica has been working on. That's very important to that area of our county. So Jodica, take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner. The CDBG Critical Infrastructure Grant program that we apply for through the Ohio Department of Development. The applications are due on June 15th, so they may push that back since they did open the applications pretty late. But we're proceeding at this time with an expected application deadline. June 15th. Critical infrastructure grant is open to communities that are looking to make improvements on any of the critical infrastructure. So that includes water, sewer, wastewater treatment improvements, roads included. The City of Shiloh Waterline Project, the village has been actively working on making improvements to their water system for a few years now. And I will allow the village and the engineers, after I kind of give a brief introduction, to provide you all any additional information. The water lines are from 1930 and they experience a high number of breaks. Very often the connections are rusty. So the staff is constantly trying to get ahead of these breaks and trying to fix them. They have quite limited manpower at the village, so they're often kind of waiting on other communities, neighboring communities like the village of Plymouth, to provide them support when these breaks happen. And then when the breaks do happen, then the villagers have to boil the water. So there's boil advisory, and this has led to great concern for the residents. The couple of years ago, I think in 2017, the Ohio EPA did provide notice of violations for their water tank. And they have been actively working with Ohio EPA to fix those violations. But they were to a point where they then decided that the water tank had to be abandoned. So that water tank now needs to be demolished. And in its place, they have been using what used to be their old clarification tank. So the clarification tank has a much more reduced capacity. It can only hold 50,000 gallons as opposed to the old water tank that was on Main Street. So when there are these breaks and when there are these boil advisory, it really puts a lot of pressure on the water treatment plant then to pump water to the water tank, and also for the water tank to maintain the levels that are required. So as you can see, that's always a concern for firefighting, making sure that there's enough pressure in the water tank. So this application and this project that we are putting together will replace some of the older water lines within the village, mostly around Main Street, and then some of the other side streets like Euclid Road, Pettit Street, and Delaware Street. And the fire station is situated right there on Delaware Street. They'll replace some of the non-functioning valves and fire hydrants. And one of the recommendations that came from Ohio EPA was that the village needs to start looking at metering their water flow. Like at present, they don't have the capacity for remote water reading. So they really don't know what the loss of the water system is. And they know there is significant loss, but they're not able to find the locations of this loss. And as a result, the residents are paying a flat fee because they're not able to know what the exact usage of each of the customers is. They all pay a flat fee, and the water and sewer rates in the village is substantially high. The water, I think the water rates are like $64 and the sewer rates are $114. So as you know, Shiloh did an income survey a few years back, and they are a low and moderate income community. They qualified as low and moderate income community. Most of their residents are on fixed income. So the water and the sewer rates are definitely high. If you compare it to Mansfield, I think Mansfield more is in the $50 to $60 range, whereas for such a tiny village, they're paying close to $200. So that's kind of, I think, the three main components: the replacement of the water lines and the water valves and the fire hydrants. The installation of the water meters. So that will be, I think, around 350 water meters and 50 meters. And then the third is the demolition of the old water tank that is on a Mechanic Street. It's always a hazard because that's from 1930 to have such an old water tank just standing there with no maintenance. So that's kind of the overall scope of the project. We are going to be submitting an application to CDBG for $500. So that will cover
500,000.
Sorry, 500,000. Oh, thank you, Stacy. That wouldn't go very far. That is, the project by itself is pretty significant. It's $3 million, and the plan is they have already applied and been approved for a design loan from Ohio EPA. So using the design loan to design the project, and then they have applied to the Ohio EPA for a construction loan, and the Ohio EPA does have a program through which part of that construction loan can be forgiven. They have applied for that loan forgiveness. They were expected to hear back about it the first week of June. Unfortunately, Ohio EPA has pushed that back. So we're hoping that by the middle of June, at the latest, we'll hear back on how much of that loan will be forgiven. So with this CDBG critical infrastructure grant, if they're funded through this, they'll also apply for the Ohio Public Works Commission grant. They are, as a small village, eligible to apply for the small government program also. So hopefully, they'll have that grant opportunity to apply for. So they're trying the hardest to bring down the loan payment, the loan portion of this project, just because they already do have significant outstanding loans that the village is paying on. And I'm sure the mayor and Mrs. Reeder can talk to that a little bit more, but as many grant dollars as they can get for the project is going to be to significantly reduce that burden. Questions?
Plymouth is both in Huron County and in Richland County.
This is Shiloh.
Oh, Shiloh.
This is Shiloh. So
Give me.
only in Richland County.
Can we,
We've done one.
in Plymouth, but in Shiloh, can ARPA funds participate in this?
Actually,
We hope to hear from the village later this year regarding the status of these applications so that the commissioners can consider how the commissioners might be able to help with ARPA funds.
So, Mayor Reader, please get a hold of Andrew or one of us and later on in the year, and maybe we can help out a little bit on that.
Okay.
any questions from the media?
None for me, thank you.
Carl there.
Carl, I know Carl had some other obligations, so he,
The mayor.
okay.
Shiloh wishes to thank Jodica for her special presentation. She did an amazing job and thanks for all of your help.
Yes, absolutely.
We love Jodica for sure.
Yes.
And she's got Clear Fork colors on.
False.
Notre Dame.
He's a big Notre Dame fan. This would be great for the village. We know this is important. Again, Jodica says this dates back to the 30s. Daryl was in high school then. So important we continue to upgrade our facilities across the county. So at this time, I'll ask for a motion to
Oh,
authorize.
you're
Okay,
in.
we're in the public hearing. That's correct.
that for-
So we have to close the public hearing. Now we will come back into our normal session. Now I'll ask for a motion to authorize the filing of the Richland County's Block 22 Community Development Grant for the Village of Shiloh for water system improvements.
So move.
Second.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears.
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
All right. We'll take a quick recess and come back at 10:45.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I believe they did. Leave meeting.
Okay, it is 10:45 on a very busy day. Joined by Janet Brock, Director of CSCA, and Kelly Christensen, our Human Resources Director. At this time, I'll ask for a motion to go into contracts, or excuse me, discussions centering around collective bargaining relationships and contract negotiations.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Barrow,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears, Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Okay, we are back in session. Janet and Kelly have some work to do and they'll come back with updates as we proceed. At this time, we will recess until 11:30. Judges and some members of the
Al, we're waiting on Judge Namoff and everybody. They're out in the hallway waiting on the judge.
Okay.
Not a bunch.
Sit over there, then I'm judging Almost not gonna be able to get in.
We'll see.
All right. It is 11:38. We are back in session, a very lengthy agenda day, joined by some esteemed members of the local bar and the Judge Brent N. Robinson. For the minutes purposes, we have Attorney James Mayer III, Attorney Jerry Thompson, Attorneys Al Werstiak. They are here representing the Bar Association in Richland County. For a little bit of background, several years ago, shortly before the pandemic, the state had appropriated additional dollars for indigent defense reimbursement. This had been a constant source of debate amongst counties in the state in terms of who ultimately was responsible to pay and fund the cost of indigent defense, which is a constitutional right in this country and in our state. The counties, obviously, and I think on the right side of the fence from a legal perspective, we're saying this is a state's responsibility. But up until that point, the counties were bearing the cost of the indigent defense. So the state did appropriate more monies, and there was a discussion, a fun discussion with the local bar association on raising rates that rightfully so hadn't been raised in a long time. I think it was the position of this office, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that I think the monies were given. A good reason was to increase the rates of attorneys representing indigent defense across Ohio, which a lot of counties did. But I think the position of the commissioners at the time was, okay, we understand that, but things happen. Little do we know, not just the pandemic, but the state sometimes has a history of saying what you're going to get and what you ultimately get. And we did raise rates and said, okay, we'll revisit them again if the ultimate reimbursement level reaches about 100%. We want to see the state actually put its money where its mouth is, so to speak. And then the pandemic hit. And we, for a good period of time, meaning Richland County, did not receive 100%. Upon our word to the local bar, we did continue to monitor it. So we have a little bit of good news, bad news today, and there's been a lot of discussions taking place between myself, Judge Robinson, Judge Nomoff, these gentlemen here. Richland County is presently getting 100% reimbursement. And we made our commitment to the local bar that we look at increasing rates. That's the good news, so to speak. The bad news is, as these discussions were taking place, the Ohio Public Defender sent a memo saying it's looking like reimbursement's going to be around the the 90% mark, not the 100 that we believed you would get. So we are here today to discuss a recommendation due in large part to the word we gave. Obviously, understanding inflation is at an all-time high and wages are increasing. But these are truly taxpayer dollars, and sort of we're here for a discussion on any recommendation, particularly our criminal judges have, obviously, on our present rates, any recommendations they have, and then discussions on if there are rates being increased, what happens, if the reimbursement falls below that 90% mark, so to speak, that the public defender memo indicated. So that's sort of the intro. We'll go to Judge Robinson, and then we'll go with local members of the bar here.
So right now, the reimbursement rate, my understanding is it's $75 an hour for first degree, second degree, and third degree felonies, and it drops down to $65 for fourth degree and fifth degree felonies. As we've had conversations with the commissioners in the past, the number of attorneys willing to do the first, second, and third degree felonies is substantially less than the ones that want to do fourth and fifth degree felonies. Although there are some fourth degree felonies that are probably every bit as complicated, like a felony OVI, as some of the first degree felonies are. The amount of work it requires generally is more for the first and second degree felonies. There's just fewer attorneys that are willing to sign up beyond that appointed list. So we've tried to keep it a difference in that let's pay a little bit more for the higher felonies, hoping to encourage more attorneys to get on those lists, because attorneys do have to go through certain requirements to handle the more serious cases. So it requires more trial experience, CLEs, which is continuing legal education, to encourage attorneys to do that. There was some talk of going above the $75 for the F1s, 2s, and 3s, which are the first, second, third degree felonies. However, that would require a court order. The more I thought about that, I was uncomfortable with that. The main reason, because if we put an order on going above it, if there is ever a downturn in the economy, or the state no longer funds the counties at the rates that they're currently funding it at, then it would require a court order to come off of that. Commissioners couldn't do it on their own to respond to a fiscal downturn. It would have to go through the courts. And so I just felt, that can be problematic. And also I was concerned that if we did raise it above and we would see a downturn in the economic forecast, that we would be raising it to lower it right away. And so then there was other discussions about, well, could we go 75 across the board? And I think the last discussion that we had, myself, Judge Namoff, and the Bar Association, was if we could go to 75-70. It still gives a little bit more money for the 1s, 2s, and 3s, the more serious charges. It does give the 4s and 5s a bump. It would help the bar. And as everybody knows, things are not getting any cheaper. Everything's more expensive right now. Food, gas, anything that can inflate has inflated. And that holds true for lawyers too. I mean, the costs of running an office isn't going down. So they are bearing that. And the idea was that if the reimbursement rate's going to remain high, that's something that we would request the commissioners to do. Now, I do know that recently that 100% reimbursement rate, they're projecting 90% in fiscal year 2023.
Yeah, it could be still at 100.
Could be at 85.
Could be at 85.
So
Protection.
So that was kind of our, as judges, to try to help the attorneys with the raise, the inflation coming up, also to still keep a little bit of benefit for the F1s, 2s, and 3s. That was kind of a settling ground that we thought we would come and approach the commissioners with and just ask. And I've been one that has said, I think the commissioners should review this on an annual basis. I think it's worth,
like on a quarterly basis.
I think it's something that should be looked at, because those reimbursement rates change, economic conditions change. We go through cycles where the economy is just booming, we go through cycles where the economy is going into recession. So it's something that probably needs to adjust based on what's happening in the real world. So that's at least my perspective. I know Judge Namoff concurs with my comments. I'll let the attorneys kind of voice their concerns or what they've noticed. Thoughts? Who wants to go first?
Who wants it?
I would just make.
Mr. Werstiak's taking the lead on this. He asked me to be here.
Jump in. Again, as we've had discussions before, both with the judges and your gentlemen as commissioners, we haven't talked much with Cliff and or with Mr. Banks. But in these conversations, we've gone over exactly what Judge Robinson has indicated. We're trying to maintain a couple of things, maintain the issue of keeping good, competent counsel here in the county, not having to seek that counsel outside the county, because it increases those costs when they want to drive here.
The drive time usually isn't paid for, correct?
It's not, but I think there are some that are getting it. And I can't
Some
confirm
places
that they
will
may
pay.
be,
Do we pay drive time? Okay.
but we shouldn't be. And we need to eliminate that anyway. And plus, local counsel is better. They're easier access to the individuals who they represent in the jail or locally in the local community. And so it's easier for us to do that. But as Brent says, as Robinson indicated, we have the expenses that are involved. We appreciate, you're taking the time as commissioners to look at this and review it. Last time it was done, it was almost a couple of years ago, but we're kind of also maintain our standard at the same rate as the other counties within the area. Some are a little higher, some are a little lower than we are. But we're trying to maintain our standards at the same, get the good representation for the people that we represent, and then still compensate ourselves for the reasonable work that we do. So as the judge indicated, we're trying to get some kind of a standard of 75 an hour from 1, 2s, and 3s, and then maybe potentially 70 or 75 across the board for the remainder. We think that's fair under all the circumstances, as you just mentioned, plus the economy. plus the inflation rate, plus just the way things are changing right at the moment. And again, as you mentioned, Mr. Barrow, we can review that in whatever time frame you want, every quarter, every 6 months, every year, whatever it's going to take to kind of just see where we're at with things and see how we can pursue it. But we're just kind of keeping up on this. In the past, we wouldn't do it for years and years. Nobody really dealt with it. Now we're trying to keep up with it a little more appropriately and fairly. And we look at everything, including the actual real world out there, what other segments of society are charging for certain services, et cetera. And we feel that we're below, in a sense, the standard that some other services are applying. And just to a point, there's no comparison. I understand this, but when I see cases in Columbus, which is rare, and these there's fights between different agencies, et cetera, and the council and Voorhees, Seder, Seymour and Pease is getting $450 an hour for representation of some person in their capacity, their legal capacity, which is silly and outrageous and shouldn't even be allowed. That just kind of really irritates us when we try to do our best in the trenches, everyday trenches with the court appointments with a misdemeanor, felonies, or others. We're dealing with probably 70 to 75 an hour. So we're feeling that's fair and reasonable, and we want to propose that to you gentlemen and see if we can get that taken care of and keep on the right standard and the right level. So we appreciate your time. Again, thanks for taking the time for looking at it, reviewing it. We appreciate you guys for what you do too.
We also aren't talking about raising caps, so the caps would remain in effect. The only way you can go over a cap is you have to ask for extraordinary fees and justify why you want to get paid more than what the caps are. And there are cases where if it goes to trial and there was a lot of work done, the fees are going to go up because to do a trial versus a plea, and I think the attorneys can talk about this a little bit, the amount of work that is put into try a case by an attorney is a lot more than if it was just one where we can work out. It's going to be a plea, we work it out, we go to sentencing, as opposed to a 4 or 5 or 6 day jury trial where someone's there every day, all day. Those are the kind of cases that you're going to go over the cap because it's understandable, but they still have to position the court to go over the caps for their limits. Each felony level has a limit of the amount of money they can bill for that without asking for fees. What else?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would just indicate that I just agree with the history that's been laid out. Mr. Vero accurately described kind of how this all got started a couple of years back. Absolutely discussed in good faith coming back and reviewing this at an appropriate time. And it does appear appropriate to look at the structure on the lower level offenses at this point. There absolutely have been conversations, as Judge Robinson indicated, with respect to the idea of bumping up the 4s and 5s, I guess, maybe misdemeanors to that 70. And I don't think any of that's unreasonable. I don't hate the idea of 75 across the board, but I'm not really here to split hairs. I do think it's appropriate to consider bumping the lowers up to 70. There certainly can be complicated cases that are 4s and 5s. It's not just offense level that we deal with. Certain offenses of violence, whether it's domestic violences, fall into that category. As he indicated, felony OVIs, aggravated assaults, drug offenses with perhaps complicated suppression issues on police work and things like that. So it doesn't seem unreasonable to get up a little bit from the 65. And as Al indicated, we appreciate the time that you gave us here today. I guess my thought would be, since I don't really have anything additional to add with respect to why it's appropriate, I think that's been covered. If there's any questions or anything like that with respect to what we do or why we think that or what our experience is, I'm sure any one of the three of us can comment on that, either on our own experience or the experience that we know that others have had that are not here today. But yeah, we appreciate the opportunity to discuss it. And I think it is an appropriate time to look at it.
Bronco?
Commissioner Vero, I would echo all of the comments of my peers as far as the history, what's been happening. I would simply add that I think I speak for everyone in this room that we appreciate the fact that we went to a single tier system. As the commissioners are aware, it used to be a different price for in court versus out of court. As Judge Robinson and anyone else would show you, most of the time was spent out of court, whether you're meeting with someone at the jail, whether you're reviewing discovery materials, things of that nature. And typically there was more time spent doing out of court stuff, which is just as important. Prepare for doing when you're actually in court, whether you're doing a change of plea or whether you're actually having a trial or a suppression hearing. Certainly costs have gone up astronomically from everything: paper, pens, supplies, discs, jump drives, which the prosecutors for the voluminous discovery need to go on.
Keeping competent staff. I mean,
Keeping competent staff. And I think it goes without saying, but of course it's me, so I'm going to say it. We have a duty of a certain level of representation to the court and to our clients that we cannot fall below as far as handling the cases efficiently, effectively, and making sure that we're protecting these folks' rights that are guaranteed by both the Ohio and the United States Constitution. So there's a certain level of responsibility we carry with our licenses that just doesn't exist in other professions, doesn't exist in other job locations. And I agree with what's been proposed, and I am very appreciative of the fact that the commissioners are willing to review it on a regular basis, whether that's annually, semi-annually, whatever. I mean, just the fact that we feel as if our concerns have been heard, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thompson, correct?
Gary Thompson.
Yeah, I try to keep up with the humor of the commissioner here, but what's the reference to Bronco?
Commissioner Vero is aware that I am a very diehard Denver Bronco fan, which is obviously quite popular in North.
Sure.
So I tried to put some pen to paper here. It's challenging because there's no breakdown. You have to literally go through the court-appointed counsel forms and goes 1, 2s, and 3s, 4s, and 5s. But my math kind of came out at about a $60,000 increase because we're not increasing 1, 2s, and 3s. And even on a percentage basis, if you go from 65 to 70, it's 7% over 2 years, which is still less than what's going on in society or in our market, excuse me. But that's even less because 1s, 2s, and 3s are not getting raises. So this increase would still be what is considered under market for increases right now in our country, certainly. And the other thing is, we did give our word. This was pre your time, Cliff, so I guess you have to come in under Maryland's word. So I'm okay with it. The only condition being a review. And then if it falls under the 90% memo, I think there needs to be an understanding from the bar that will probably drop down to 65%. Is that?
I think that we'd be obviously willing to come back in and discuss all of that and take a look at the numbers, but yeah.
Okay.
Judge.
Yes.
You and Judge Nomhoff took 2 years to convince me that 1, 2s, and 3s should be higher.
Correct.
And 4s and 5s can. Now you made one good point. Well, you made several, but one good point that you made was that you'd have to court order that. And if we fall back below that, then you'd have to court order that. Is that no?
No, if you exceed the cap at 75, you need the court. So there's two orders he's referencing. The initial is there was discussion amongst us going above the $75 an hour mark for 1s, 2s, and 3s, which would necessitate a court order. The other thing that would necessitate a court order would be monies exceeding the cap limits in full for the amounts.
Okay, so it's not a matter of lowering. We could lower the rates if
yes,
the economy
it's the state says, hey, you're at 75. This is what we're approving our limit up to. Anything above that, and there are counties that are over 75. It requires a judicial order saying that it's necessary to go beyond the per hour rate of 75.
So you're understanding, Commissioner Vero, that let's say we do an order to go over 75. suddenly the commissioners say the economy is downturned, we don't want to be over that. When
No, that would take another court. That's correct.
That's the way.
come back to.
Yeah, but we're not getting into
Understood
that territory, at least right now.
Right.
Not issuing an order.
Right. And that was why initially, when we first talked, there was initial and I think Judge Namoff was like, yeah, we could go over that. And other counties are doing it. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, that adds a degree of complexity that we have to order it. But then when it needs to come down, now suddenly we have to unorder it. And then I realized maybe I'm psychic, but I felt like I think the economy's going to take a turn. And so watching it kind of happen, I thought we're going to put an order on, and then in 3 months, we're going to be being asked to take the order off. So rather than get involved in putting orders on and taking orders off, or if we didn't take the order off, now you're going to come to us and say, well, now money that we're paying is now needs, and we're not going to be able to pay other bills we owe. So, it's going to be harming the county because we can't lower these without a court order. How are we supposed to pay the sheriff? How are we supposed to pay the prosecutor? How are we supposed to pay the auditor?
I came here hoping to jump up and down and scream.
Yeah, Your Honor, if you've read the
Because you-
news lately, we thoroughly enjoyed debating.
Because you told us for years there should be a bigger gap there.
Right.
And then suddenly now I'm hearing the explanation. I appreciate it. And also, while I'm appreciating things, thank you for you and Judge Namhoff for keeping the courts open during this pandemic. And these people had to come there every day and do that. So we appreciate that.
Justice didn't stop during the
Well, as
pandemic.
I tell jurors, crime didn't stop. So how could we stop? We did stop jury trials for about 2.5 months. That was, and then another month when it got high again. But we kept bench trials, change of pleas, sentencings, everything else continued on just as before. The only thing,
Horses don't stop, custody disagreements don't stop, crimes don't stop.
so I appreciate that, Commissioner Banks. We felt like we had no choice, that we just can't stop. And some courts did, but their backlog is huge. We're actually where we're supposed to be right now, as far as, we're always a little bit behind because we have 1,000 civil cases and over 1,000 criminal cases filed every year. But we're able to keep up and manage that backlog. We're not like in a hole where we just can't get out. We're able to catch up, and then we fall behind a little bit because more indictments come, and then we catch up, or more civil filings are charged or filed. But we're in a good spot where we are right now.
Okay.
All right, so this time I'll ask for a motion that we increase the indigent defense hourly rate for appointed counsel, which we have in our resolution defined as all other cases and all appellate, which basically means not felonies 1s, 2s, and 3s, and murder and ag murder, from $65 to $70 per hour, on the condition that we review to see where we stand at the 90% reimbursement rate as we head into the 2023 budget year.
Make that motion.
And I'll second that.
I was thinking effective date, but we did get a memo from Public Defender on when that can be effective. And I would have to bring that back up to get the date, because they gave us specific instructions.
In accordance with the Ohio Public Defender's guidelines. How about that?
Okay.
And I'll let you guys know once we know the dates.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Commissioner Vero,
Yes.
Commissioner Mears,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks.
Yes.
Any questions? I know Carl's gone. He called me ahead of time. Al, you have any questions?
Good. Thank you, gentlemen.
I
Well,
just want to
you
make
out,
sure
the
I heard
media
you
out.
right. I just want
What's
to
that?
make sure I heard you right, Tony. It's increasing it to 70 an hour?
Just, yeah, from 65 to 70, but only felonies, 4s and 5s, and appellate cases. And I guess you could say misdemeanors, but for our discussion, to make it simpler, it would be for felonies, 4s and 5s.
Okay, thank you.
All right, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
No further business after a 2.5-hour meeting day. We will adjourn.
Well, Newton, judge had a jury trial. Is that way?
Namoff's in a jury trial. Yep.
All right,
It was actually Jerry's
adjourn.
jury trial.
Thanks, guys.
But
It was an F1 and an F2.
Ah,